Hello everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to very sunny Colney. We've picked a spot in the sunshine here this afternoon. Norwich City will start their pre-season action behind closed doors at Colney this afternoon against Northampton. We have, in literally the last minute before we came on, I think the countdown had started on the video and we've been handed a team sheet. So I'm going to throw over to Paddy Davitt, who's going to read out Norwich City's team. Sorry, we are a little bit late, but we are still getting
pre-season,
the rough off and enjoying a bit of sunshine. So yeah, Paddy, I'll throw over to you to the Norwich City team if you could.
Afternoon, everybody. Nice to be back. 25, not to see us, obviously, to see Norwich, but 25-26 starts right here. And here's the team news, the first 11. In goal, Dan Grimshaw. Then we think back four.
Yeah, we think
Stacey, new signing Tariq Darling,
on the back four. So
Yakov Medic, and we think Adebayo Aga.
Yep.
You think the two in front of that of Alan Domarachi, which is an interesting one of the signings from development level. Dundee United, we think, off the top of my head. It's a bit of a deep dive into some of these younger ones and their backstory. But yeah, we think he's playing alongside, help me out here, Connor.
Jacob
Wright, of course, who's got the captain next to him, as much as that means anything in this game. And then we think three behind Josh Sargent being Mate Jurasek, which is good to see him involved from the start. We think Amank Forson in the 10 role. And then another young Scot. Do we think Dundee United as well? Brandon Forbes.
Definitely Scotland.
Definitely Scotland. We'll keep it on definitely Scotland. So we think, Shea Pickup was a 4-2-3-1, at least in the initial phase. Do you want me to list all the substitutes? There's quite a lot.
You've not listened to the striker yet.
I said Josh Sargent.
Did you?
Okay, Josh Sargent. Yeah. Josh
Sargent.
The main man. So that's good sign as well.
And then just list the subs, I reckon.
I will do. Yeah, I mean, no Kovacevic. I've been told that's how you pronounce it, Connor. Just to mark your card there. That he's not involved today. But the other keeper, Louis Malden, they brought in, and some of the other senior keepers, and then I'll just list them. Shane Duffy, Liam Gibbs, Rory Nakonpur, Antti Cernach, Brad Hills, Kellen Fisher, Ken Abo, AJ Bridge, Batan Ozcan, Finley Cork, Luke Towler. That's the new lad they brought in and announced yesterday. Under 18s, formerly Ipswich's captain at that level. Signed, I think, is it 2 year plus an option off the top of my head?
It's one with an option.
Yeah, you're right. One with an option. Errol Mundell-Smith, caught a few headlines last season at development level. Good attacking wide player. Dylan Jones, LaShawn Seeley, another highly rated young player, and Uriah Genji. So that is your Norwich collective for today's opening pre-season friendly against Northampton Town. I won't bother giving you the Northampton team. Yeah,
I mean, the headline really is that Cameron McGeehan is amongst the subs for them, along with 3 trialists. So that's good. Also, Max Deitch, I think Sean's son, isn't he?
Is it?
Northampton. I think that's right. Yeah. So that's the headlines as far as Northampton are concerned. I mean, there's been a lot of debate, Paddy, about would Liam Manning go over 4? Would he go with a 5? It's the opening game, so we don't have any definitive answers. But starting with a 4, which I think is quite interesting within itself, as much as we can pick out anything at this stage of pre-season.
Yeah,
still pretty futile.
Yeah, the film is getting wet here, which is absolutely nailed on. We'll persist as the amateurs.
Quite nice in this weather, too.
As the amateurs we are, but yeah, I mean, we'll get a chance to have a chat with Liam after the game and maybe ask him just, where's he at, because ultimately it's his opinion that matters most in terms of that setup. I'd imagine this stage of pre-season, it's clearly about building fitness and it's about building minutes into legs and sharing that load. So we've said it all along. I don't think we want to get too carried away or too hung up on he is a 4 at the back or a 3 at the back. He showed Bristol City last season. There was a flexibility. He started with a 4 and it went to a 3, and that kind of underpinned their rise into the playoffs. So, but that does look, and we've had it confirmed that it's a 4 today. And for me, it's within that 4. You've got Medic and you've got Darling. Now, I wrote about it today. Whether it is a 4 or is a 3 moving into the championship season, those two clearly must be earmarked as cornerstones of a defensive unit. So for me, it's more about those two starting to build that relationship, that understanding as a pair, whether that's in a 4 or whether that's in a 3, because I think it's no secret, is it? You go and bring those 2 players in. It's a signal that maybe you're looking for a little bit better than what you had in those areas last season. So, yeah, less about systems. We will ask, obviously, Liam about that, but more, I think, about understandings at this stage and just getting that relationship. And that's a key relationship for me, the heart of that one.
Yeah, and I mean, just to sort of go on that point, the defensive point, Emmanuel Adebayo clearly had a very good loan at Dundee United last season, very productive. He did play fullback there for them, and impressed at points during that spell. comes back today, and I guess it probably fits into a wider conversation about where Norwich are left back-wise. Lucien Horo, Ben Cruzene both ended the season with injuries. I'm sure there'll probably be a gentle and slow introduction, particularly for Cruzene as the pre-season goes on. But and obviously no Kenny McLean in that as well. So there's lots of kind of interesting elements to talk around that left back position.
There is, and again, we will get Liam's thoughts on that. But I think there's a sense that Lucien Horo probably isn't going to be ready for the start of the season. So in terms of left back options, you've got to take him off the table in the here and now. Obviously finished last season with that quad tear, wasn't it? I think it's a delicate injury really to come back from. So if that is the case, Ben Cruzene, also season-ending injury, had the ankle problem. I think he's Blackburn in early March. Just had it confirmed actually. He is back on that conveyor belt to being involved in pre-season, but not today. Maybe you'll see for the first time in those 4 games out in Holland. But again, a player who ended the season injured, they're going to be careful with his rehab. Is he going to be fully up to speed by championship kickoff, which is now just over a month or so away, isn't it? Probably a little bit less actually. So in that climate, the links to the likes of Creswell, 1 or 2 other players, I think is Norwich just taking a step back and saying, well, yeah, okay, we've got 2 young players there. We don't want to block their pathway, but we also have to be mindful of the season is just on the cusp. And if either or both of those aren't available, then what do? Kellen Fisher can play there, Jack Stacey can play there. We know Kenny McLean finished last season there. None of those are out and out established, accustomed to left backs. So again, let's see when Liam's heads at on that, but I don't think it's a surprise that they are looking for what's out there in terms of the market. It wasn't the position they were probably looking to do anything with at the start of the summer, but you have to react to things that could be potentially unfolding. They're going to impact you for the start of the season, and I don't think it's a given they will go into the market, but by the same token, they wouldn't be doing their jobs right. It wasn't assessing, is there an option externally who might fit, but bringing in doesn't then block a pathway from the Hovo or Cruzene. So it's not ideal, but if we get to the end of pre-season and the left back is the only area of injury concern, I think you'd probably take that, because what you don't want is going into the big start to the season when you want to get off to a good start and build some momentum, and you're having to deal with multiple positional injury situations. But here and now, there clearly is an issue at left back, and they're going to have to manage that situation moving forward. And if it is, do you think it is going to be Adebayoga there, or will he play right back and Stacey left today? What's your take?
Yeah, I think it probably would be Adebayoga left back.
I think so.
I'm trying to think where he played at Dundee United.
It's definitely right back.
It's definitely right. So I guess there is that possibility. We've seen Stacey do that role before, haven't we? And like you say, Callum Fisher, we've seen him play at left back. We were away at West Brom. He played there, didn't he? Up against Tottenham Fellows, who's really very good. So they have got option. Kenny McLean, as we said, has filled in that position as well. So yeah, I feel like that one might be one to keep an eye on. Obviously, Vatan Ozcan as well on the bench is a young player, Turkish youth international who quite highly thought of, and is a left back as well. So you do have kind of a younger option there, and obviously we'll see how that unfolds as pre-season goes. If you just look over the shoulder, you might be able to see some yellow shirts in the background. That is the Norwich City squad warming up, really, on the surface. It's a fantastic.
Shall we just say what we both more or less said when they emerged from?
Well, I was going to come on to that. Actually,
okay, go on.
It surrounds Norwich's number 5 today, Jakob Medic. I mean, if you think he's big in pictures, he's a big man.
Absolute giant. Absolute giant. I mean, Harry Darling's not small, but compared to him, he looks like a stick man. And that's not me derogatory to Harry Darling or his physique, but he is certainly an imposing figure. I mean, the giveaway for me was the signing pictures. That neck, that was Mike Tyson in his prime. So he's clearly a unit. But to see him in the flesh, I mean, Shane Duffy's just over our shoulder there, and I'd say he's bigger than Shane Duffy. So let's just hope, he's the full package. I mean, if he was at Ajax, I know he didn't play a huge amount of games, but technically you should think he's there, certainly for the English Championship. Hopefully he's got a bit of turn of pace about him as well, because, they'll be tested in the Championship inevitably. So, we both in unison said, "My word, he's a big lad," as they emerge from just over our shoulder.
Yes, yeah.
So that's the first takeaway of the summer, there.
Yeah, it is. He is a unit, and I think if we're doing that, then you'd imagine opposition strikers are going to be doing that. Not the sort of character or profile of the person who think he's going to be dropped in at Millwall or wherever we have to go on a Tuesday night this season is going to be necessarily bothered by that. Jacob Wright, I've spoken about him a lot towards the back end of last season. It feels like he was maybe one of the few that ended the season with real momentum from the Norwich City perspective. Clearly now, obviously, converted that move into a permanent one, given the armband today. And I think not just necessarily even today or since his signing, but there was a lot of chat towards the back end of the season about what he's like as a personality, his professionalism and everything, be it, all the way down to kind of the way he stretches and his kind of his behaviour around the place. You can kind of see, even at this early stage, without Kenny McLean, without maybe Shane Duffy, who just to our right as we look over there, why Liam Manning very early would be quite inclined to give him that.
I'm trying to think. It was Plymouth away, wasn't it, where he was the post-match player. You spoke to him, and they'd lost that game, obviously, and it was in that downward spiral, which eventually led to the change of head coach, his assistant. But I mean, you said how mature he was, and how he carried himself, and how he spoke, and then you see that on the pitch in terms of that maturity, and he's got to be fairly mature to play in that position, because the responsibility constantly to build the play, to accept the ball off the full-backs and centre-backs, and trust your ability, trust your technique, and want to be that influential figure, which, small sample though it is, he was starting to show that. And it's no surprise to me, and I know it's pre-season run out, but the fact that he takes the armband today probably is another little signal of maybe Liam Manning has seen that leadership in him and wants to encourage that and build on that. And as you rightly say, if he continues where he left off, and with that attitude, why would he not continue? Because he's now getting the confidence of, well, actually, I think I can play at this level and maybe higher. And every time he goes on the pitch and he comes through that and proves his ability, that probably just reinforces that belief system. And if that is the case, then we know that away from here there's moves to bring in another centre mid, but very hard to see a Norwich lineup this season that doesn't have him as a focal point in that central midfield option. So great bit of business, and really that was the first one of the summer in terms of senior that they converted to the loan. It's really set the tone. The 6 signings up to Matthias Fitzgarden that's come in after him. For me, and any Norwich fan I've bumped into in the last week or two, there's a genuine optimism, and there's almost like we can't wait for the season to start now, rather than the gloom that was maybe around the club and the pessimism at the end of last season. That's completely gone now, and players like Jacob Wright coming in the door, I think, allied to the head coach change, it just all feels really positive. And it's great that today is for me another signal that we're edging now closer to what it matters, which is Millwall on the opening day of the season.
Yeah, and obviously more in terms of his role today. You mentioned Alan Domaraki, who we think is going to be alongside a very young man that he's going to have to guide against some very seasoned EFL operators from the Northampton perspective. So that adds a little bit more in terms of the influence that he can have. I'm going to group 2 players together, then we'll speak about Josh Sargent, then we'll do a little bit on the transfer wise. But the 2 players in that Norwich lineup I'm probably quite intrigued by, and feels like they could do with a pretty good pre-season. Mate Jurasek, for obvious reasons, reasons that have been discussed liberally since he arrived in January. And then probably Mank Forster as well, who in flashes, I keep mentioning that Coventry game to you, but in flashes showed his quality. That Cardiff game I thought he was excellent. It was the final day of the season. It feels like there's a player in there waiting to kind of burst out. But clearly, Jurasek, I think, would do everyone the world of good if he could have a decent pre-season.
Well, to be fair, we've had a brief chat with him there just off camera, but Ben Napper said at the first of the 2 media rounds we had with him at the end of last season that the plan was he's got his own recovery programme. Nobody's more frustrated than him at how the first 4 or 5 months post coming in played out. But the idea was that he would have this programme. He would be here at Colney primarily, not going away. And the aim was that from minute 1 of pre-season, he would be available. Well, minute 1 of pre-season, he starts. So that's obviously gone to plan. Had a little minor hernia surgery. And he more than most in this lineup today just needs minutes, really. It's not about wrote a piece 2 or 3 weeks back. The expectation levels now that are on him because of the price tag that he came attached with, and that you almost need to just put that to the side, just let him build himself into a Norwich shirt, build himself into a championship season, because what did he have? 80 odd minutes at Hull, and there was a game at Carrow Road he came on for Preston, was it? Maybe on the top of my head. He needs to learn about the league. He needs time to grow in this side. But what isn't in doubt is clearly the ability of the player because of the clubs who were in for him and the fact that Norwich had to move quickly to bring him in the door in January. So, yeah, whatever he does today, for me, is irrelevant. It's just good to see him in a shirt, able to be part of pre-season from minute one. And then it's now for Liam and his coaching staff and the sports science people just to guide him, build him up, build that resistance up, that physicality, that robustness, that hopefully come Millwall, keep referring to that, but come Millwall, he's ready to go. And you then hope he just catches and then he could go on, he could be anything. He could, we're talking about a player who's pretty much out the door now. Next 24 hours, that'll be confirmed. Ball signs to Porto. Look what he did in the first 3-4 months of last season. I'm not saying Jurasek will do that, but there's the potential for him to just.
He should be targeting that though.
He should, because if he's got, we know he's got the technical ability. If he can learn and adapt and understand what the championship's all about and the physicality and the robustness, keep referring to that feature because that was the question mark against him in the first 4 or 5 months that they almost had to build him up to handle that. There's absolutely no doubt that he could replicate what Science produced, but hopefully then sustain it and build on it because that is the reason why they brought him in. They think they've got a player who has a really high ceiling, both in terms of his transfer and resale value, but in terms of his impact in a Norwich shirt. So, great to see him. And then swiftly, I'll just briefly on Forson. Yeah, I'd agree wholeheartedly. You just need to find a position for him. Find a position for him. There's enough evidence over the course of last season, albeit if it's starts, that there's a player there who can influence if he's put in the right positions, I think, in the right areas of the pitch. And for me, that was probably what we saw against Cardiff. Not necessarily saying you've got no defensive responsibilities, but having the insurance policy of players behind him to allow him to do what he's really good at, which is picking those passes, connecting the dots with the other players in the final third. And dare I mention it, but the Coventry game showcased his shooting ability as well. So, he's got that in his locker as well. So, yeah, good to see him in the lineup today. And of that 11, I think that's one of the areas I'll be looking at is Force, if it is the 10, how he goes in that role.
Yeah, no, Emmy Marcondes is feeling well in this list. I'm sure there's
Uslamani.
Players.
Uslamani,
yeah, although he did have some international over 2 days over the summer, so that might explain that. Obviously, we could probably wrap it up too. Firstly, it's going to be great to see Josh Sargent. Clearly, he's the other player, along with Walker Science, that there's been a lot of chat around this summer. And then just a little bit in terms of where Norwich are incoming lines as well. The 2 names at the moment, Matson and Diallo, seem to be the 2 that are dominating. And sort of as we understand, still waiting for club-to-club agreements, hopefully, on both of those guys.
Yeah, when you put the line out today, or was it late yesterday, you lads discussed it on the window watch, that is the latest state of play. That clearly, in both cases, I think from the Norwich side, they feel there's an encouragement to pursue those deals. But certainly with Jallow, because Watford are in and have been in probably ahead of Norwich, inevitably, that's not a straightforward one to do. But the fact that they're still in the race, the fact that, as we stand here, Jallow and Watford and Mets haven't come to an agreement, shook hands, and that's a done deal, then Norwich will continue to push because, post-Science Wells, they want to do a direct replacement, and they've clearly identified that this is a player who fits the profile, like we've just talked about in the last section with Jurasek, a young, up-and-coming player who they can probably obtain for a transfer value that if he does come into England and shows what he's all about, then, the ceiling is very high with him as well. So, but nothing more in the last 24 hours is our understanding.
Although Matson hasn't played for Silk.
No, apparently not.
They have played a friendly.
They've already played, have they?
It was at 10 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
He wasn't named in that squad, so we'll see if anything.
And isn't there or it might already be gone through that they've signed a player from Plymouth on midfield?
Yeah, it's gone through. Yeah,
that's gone through, has it? Yeah. So you can see how the pieces of the jigsaw are coming together with that one. That one, I think they've probably certainly at the start of the week, speaking to the people who matter here, there was a real confidence that they think they're getting the right encouragement from Matson and his camp, and it clearly doesn't feel that the club-to-club element would be a barrier because he's only got less than 18 months left now. So, Silk Board have to be realistic in terms of their valuation. So I think of the 2, that one seems like one that you could see happening. How soon? Well, who knows? But yeah, those 2, hopeful more so maybe on Matson. And then just to round it up, Sargent starts today, so he's obviously not in Wolfsburg, he's not in Burnley, he's not in Leeds.
He's over there, I can see.
He's over there, so...
I'm just sorry. You're just interjecting. So
let me move on.
Stuff going on here, warm-up wise, which you may or may not be able to see. But just to you can see Norwich's back four, which if that is lining up the way they're going to play, is Jack Stacey at right back and Adeboyega with Medic right side, left side, right. So then got the two and right, but there, just on the edge of the penalty area is the front four who are doing some work. So I think the 40, the last set is there, and the 40 there, Josh Sargent is there as well. So that seems to be pretty clear in terms of maybe a 4-2-3-1. So we do know a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
Just very finally, Paddy, and then we'll let these good people get on with their day in the sunshine. And obviously we'll do all the relevant folks in a moment. But what is the one thing you're looking for today in terms of taking away from this game? Anyway, it's still very early in pre-season. We know the focus on fitness. We know people will debate and argue how much it actually means at this point. But what's the one thing you'd like to see today?
For me, it's probably the two centre-backs, because with a fair wind, when Millwall swings round, you'd imagine they will be in the 11. So to start to see an understanding how they dovetail with each other, obviously, pre-season, first game of pre-season, we won't overhype, what Northampton might bring. I think they lost 3-0 in midweek, as much as results matter at this stage. So a team who finished lower end of League One. Whether they'll be fully tested defensively or not, I don't know. But it's more about, are they comfortable on the ball? Are they comfortable positionally, working in tandem and as individuals? So for me, because it feels like they are Norwich's centre-back pairing of choice this season, I'd like to see, the early semblance of an understanding between those two. Going to bowl that one back at you, Connor. What about you?
Yeah, well, I was going to say defensively actually, but I'll go for kind of what I spoke about. It'd be really good to see something from Fulton in your Arsec. I think that would be kind of what I would take away. Something positive, something tangible that we could take into the rest of the pre-season. That was good for them. And then obviously I think beyond that, it's just can any of these young lads, can Dumaraki, can Adeboyega, can they really state their claim? Obviously there's a whole host of them on the bench as we listed as well. Can they come forward and state their claim? We shall see. Of course, this game being played behind closed doors today. Just in front of us actually is a stand. There's how many people would you say? About 15, 20 people, maybe slightly more than that, from various clubs and whatnot. And obviously pink.com, you can follow a live blog. We'll have all your analysis, all your action. We're speaking to Liam Manning post-game as well, so we'll bring you that chat, which should have hopefully a few good lines in there on the state of play and where things are at pre-season wise. I'm going to bowl over Paddy's to his best sales pitch to end us off in terms of where we're at. Offers and various things on subscriptions that people join us for ahead of obviously that Dutch tour in Friday we fly out.
We do, us three, and Adam behind the camera, and we'll be there embedded, not in their hotel obviously, because they don't want riff-raff anywhere near the hotel, but we'll be in the vicinity generally of Holland where they are, and so any game that's played this pre-season with Norwich will be there. Hopefully we'll be able to bring some exclusive content around, sit downs with various people. Don't want to speak too much, but there's a certain American who's swiftly coming to England in the next few days. Not that one, no. Probably more importantly, from a Norwich perspective. So, there might be things happening in that area. So, no better time to take advantage if you don't already do. If you do, many thanks for your continued support, being a subscriber. Obviously, we're coming to you, on YouTube here, primarily Facebook as well, and that content is there and it's free and accessible at the point of use. But we do have a lot of other content. Your live blog, my pointers, that'll all be behind, the paywall today. So if you fancy just having a dabble, you've not already done so, this is the time. We've got a full year, half price offer, £15 for the year. As my wife sort of said, you can't get 3 Costas for £15. So, why not get 365 days worth of Norwich coverage? We're at every game, every press conference, home and away. So that, or if you still need to be convinced, I think there's a £3 for a 3-month offer as well. You can just dip your toe proverbially. All the details are pinned on the Pinkin accounts, Twitter, Facebook, or the brand site, pinkin.com. You go on there, you be able to follow the links. That'll take you through and come and join us metaphorically over in Holland as well as today, because
4 good games over there.
Exactly, yeah, and a lot to cover, and we will be out there for the duration. So, as I say, if you love Norwich, if you want to be as close as you can to the club, you do well to find another media outlet who can give you that sort of coverage. So, please, if you haven't already done so, if you have, many thanks as always for your continued support. But why not just have a little dabble and join the movement?
Absolutely right. Standing here in the sun, not good for someone of my complexion. So we'll end it there. Thank you very much for watching. As he said, thinking.com, the place to go. Bring you updates and analysis from today's opening pre-season game against Northampton Town here at Clonmel. See you soon.